You probably see where this is going. When we see someone come to Christ, when we put a rose on the stage, we celebrate the fact that someone has made a decision for Jesus Christ, but we understand the huge responsibility that comes with that as a church. If you have the joy and privilege of leading one of your names on the wall that you've been praying for to receive Christ, if you have the joy of seeing that person trust Christ, then understand once they do, they become your child. And you need to teach them everything that you know about following Jesus Christ so that they can follow Jesus just like you do. Some of you are like, oh, wow, really? I better brush up. But that's how this works. There's a guy that I met up, I guess a little bit over a year now, that I got started talking to him, and he's been coming to the church with his wife, and just a few weeks ago, he finally decided to trust Jesus Christ. He took his time. He asked all the questions he needed to ask. He just watched us as Christians kind of roll and act, and eventually the Holy Spirit wore him down, and he surrendered his life to Jesus. Just an awesome and remarkable thing. I still, every time I hear about that, especially someone I know, I'm like, wow, just verifies my faith, and anyway, all that stuff. But, when I found out about this, he actually called me the night he made his decision for Christ. Here's what I said to him. Hey, that's great. Now I can stop talking to you. And then I hung up the phone. Is that what I said? No. What a horrible human I'd be. I said, that's great, man. Here's what I want to do with you. I'd love if we could just sit down for an hour a week and just start walking through this little thing we have around here called the Establishing Guide. I just want to talk to you about this new faith that you've started. And I'm just going to share with you the things that Jesus has taught me in my life. And this will be the way that you can start walking down this path that Jesus wants you to walk down. That's how this is supposed to work. If we're going to be the followers of Jesus Christ that we're meant to be, we're going to have to fix our eyes. Train them to know, our hearts and our minds, to know truth, to be able to distinguish and discern between falsehood and truth. And then we need to be available for others so that they can do that as well. Enough on the first one? Everybody got that one? Let's move on then. The second thing Jesus teaches here still pertains to the eyes, but he's going to kind of go in a different direction. Let's just imagine for a second that all of us here progress in our relationship with Jesus Christ. We get really good at discerning truth, and we know what it is. How will Satan trip us up in this area of strength? Well, here's what he's going to do. He's going to try to make us prideful. Have you ever met a proud Christian? Or have you ever met someone who is so consumed with everybody else's faults that they don't see their own? Do you know this person? Have you been this person? I know I have. I can get all high and mighty pretty quick. Pastor Mark and all, right? I got a title. Yeah, that's exactly where Satan wants us, just so you know. If he can't keep you from being a Christian, he wants you to get really good at being a Christian so that you get really proud of how good you are at being a Christian so you can wreck all the other Christians around you and keep the people who aren't Christians from becoming Christians. Did you get all that? That's how he rolls. And Jesus knows that, so he's going to smack us over the head. Here it comes. You ready? He says this, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" Has anybody ever gotten something in their eye? Anybody wear contacts out there and lost one in your eyeball? That's just gross. I don't know why you people wear those things, put those things on your eyeballs. But if you've ever done that, it used to happen in like a basketball game that I'd be playing. In every game, there'd be one guy on my team like, "Oh, I can't find my contact." And I'm like, "I ain't touching that. Get out of here." But someone would walk up, and they this is the contact finding ritual. You look up, right? You put it right. You got it right in the light, right? You zigzag all over the place. And the person's like, "There it is!" And then that person goes, "Doink!" Right? And it like pushes to where you can get it, and then you get it, and then you put it back in or whatever. Sickos, contact wearers. It's called LASIK. All right, anyway. Jesus is talking about this. He's talking about a speck that comes in someone's eye. But here's what he's saying. All right, if you're going to help someone get the speck out of their eye, make sure that you don't have one of these in yours. Okay, so let's go through that scenario again. You come up to me and you got your contact missing and you need help, and then I come up to you with this big board mask on, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me help you with that. And I'm poking you in the eyes and sticking this up your nose, and am I of any help to you at all? No. It's hyperbole. Jesus is again using this literary form of hyperbole, and he's saying, look, so many of us are so busy worrying about the very minute and least amount of sins in other people's lives that we can get so proud and so puffed up that we completely forget the sins of our own lives. The Greek word there for plank is actually the Greek word dokos. It means rafter. And so if you can like picture the rafters in the temples, like the big fatty beams, that's what he's really talking about. He's not talking about a 2x4. He's talking about something that would crush your head if it was in your eye. And he uses this literary form with good reason. Did you know that most people, this has actually been psychologically proven, most people will point out the sins that they have in their own lives and other people's lives and make a big fuss about them? It's called projection. That they want to find someone who is messing up like they are, and they somehow take their own remorse for their own sin, and it comes out as like, spite against the other person and their sin. I remember back in the 80s, a well-known TV preacher was caught in an extramarital affair. Another well-known TV preacher went on his TV show, sermon show the next week, and just laid into this guy. Just months later, this guy's own discretion was brought to light. We have in that an example of this whole plank and speck ordeal. So we have a couple things we've got to handle up on here. We should not then come to people who have issues and judge them or try to fix them if we haven't fixed our own. It'd be like my Aunt Arlene, who, at the age of 4, I remember visiting her house. She would smoke like 2 packs in front of me at breakfast. And she would just, she would light 2 at a time. One would almost be out. She'd put the other one in. And she just, I'd be like, hey, Aunt Arlene, thanks for the eggs. And she'd be like, don't you ever do this. Does anybody have that aunt? Who's smoking in front of you, blowing it in your face, says, don't let me ever catch you doing this. It's going to kill you. And like, what? What are you talking about? It's called hypocrisy. It's saying one thing, doing another, demanding one thing and not demanding it of yourself. It's the kind of thing that inspires the rap lyrics of classic rap songs. How's it go? Oh, Father caught me smoking and he said, no way. That hypocrite smokes 2 packs a day. You better fight for your right to party. All right, there you go. Beastie Boys, 1988. That might be the first time the Beastie Boys have ever been quoted in a sermon. All right. The Pharisees were kings at hypocrisy. And Jesus took them to task on it. Hold your thumb there in Luke chapter 6 and flip over to Matthew 23. Listen to what Jesus says there in verses 23 and 24. It says, woe to you, teachers of the law, Pharisees, you hypocrites. He says, you give 1/10 of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin. These guys were letter of the law keepers. They gave 1/10 of every of their harvest, every piece of their harvest. Even the spices that were insignificant, they weren't really food. They gave 1/10 of their paprika. It says there that you've done this, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, faithfulness. You've gotten so consumed with the letter of the law that you've missed the spirit of the law entirely. He says you've practiced the latter while neglecting the former. And then he calls them, guess what he calls them? Some of you aren't there in your Bibles, but it says this. He calls the Pharisees blind guides. Sound familiar? You know why they were blind guides? Because they were hypocrites. They had huge rafters in their eyeballs, and they were trying to pick out everybody else's specks. Look what it says next. It says this. It says, you strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel. You know what that means? They go after someone's soup, and they find the very smallest little flea wing in there, and they're like, ooh, gross. While all the while, that's how they sounded. All the while, They're slamming down an entire camel, head, hooves, humps. It's the same picture that we have here of the plank, the rafter, and the speck. It's hypocrisy. They would blast Jesus all day long, call him the son of Satan. And then one of them, a guy named Nicodemus, shows up in John chapter 3, and he comes to Jesus, and he basically confesses to Jesus, hey, we know you're from God, otherwise you couldn't do the stuff you do. Explain to me what's going on. Do you see the hypocrisy in that? Nicodemus gets all like glorified and deified for all this great stuff he did. Why didn't he just come out and say that while everybody else was railing on Jesus during the day? You know why? Because Nicodemus wrestled with hypocrisy. Believing one thing, saying another. Yeah. We shouldn't do that. It's not how we're meant to live. In fact, we need to get the plank out of our eye. That's what it says next. Look at the verses. It says this.